my advice would be to work hard. And what I mean by that is watch a TV show that films here that you feel like you could fit into the world of. Let yourself be inspired by some other incredible TV show that, is already over and you couldn't be on. But just find things every day to do that excite you about this, because most of it is a big, difficult, unglamorous slog. And I think that working hard and finding those little things that remind you why you're doing it is key.
Hey there, it's Ginny.
And I'm Monica.
And this is Hitting Her Mark,
a podcast for women in the arts, actors, filmmakers, artists who are passionately chasing their creative dreams,
while juggling the beautiful chaos of caring for those they love.
We're here to share stories, insights, and inspiration, proving that you can hit your mark without compromising what matters most.
So if you're ready to make your creative dreams a reality, let's dive in. From Broadway stages to your screen, award-winning actor Meredith Forlenza has built a career rooted in craft, range, and staying power. With standout performances on Broadway, including The Winslow Boy, 1984, I'll Be Handing in Spokane, Noises Off, and Pal Joey, and now as a series regular on the hit Netflix series Finding Her Edge. She's proof that longevity in this industry comes from dedication and evolution. Thanks for joining us, Meredith. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hitting Her Mark. Meredith Forlenza is a powerhouse actor whose career spans Broadway, film, and television. Originally from New York, now based in Toronto, she is currently appearing as Camille St. Denis, a series regular, folks, on a hit Netflix show, Finding Her Edge, which has been picked up for season 2. We're so happy to have Meredith join us today. Thank you so much for coming here.
Oh my God.
We're also good friends, if I couldn't tell.
Intro. Yes.
I was going to say it's a very musical opening, Ginny. Very musical. I liked it.
I feel very supported.
Well, we love you and we want to know more. You originally from New York and then you ended up here in Toronto, which seems
I'm actually
to a lot of us.
I know everyone says that to me. Okay, so first of all, I'm originally from New Jersey. So I grew up in northern New Jersey with all the other Irish Italian girls, and lived in New York as an adult for about 12 years, and then ended up here. But when I moved here, everyone said to me, "How could you move here from New York? New York is amazing." People do not realize who live in Toronto how great Toronto is. And I just want to say to all the Canadian listeners, this city is phenomenal and New York is great too. I love New York. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up outside New York, whatever, but I love it here and I never want to go back.
Okay, well, we love that. Yes. But to take it back, we always like to take it all the way back to when you were a little girl in Jersey. What did you ever have an inkling that this is how your life was going to end up?
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those little weirdos who basically, like, since I was a tiny little thing, I think when I was 6, I decided I wanted to be an actress. And my mom put me in some community theater in New Jersey. And that was it. That was just all I ever did forever. And I was always so angry at my parents because, I lived right outside New York City. And I was so angry at them that they wouldn't help me get an agent. And they didn't understand that they were really standing in the way of my obvious path to fame. And so I was pretty furious at them for that as a kid. But now I'm grateful that they just forced me to just be a kid. Yeah, so as a kid, I just, I went to theater camps. I did community theater. I was in all the school plays. I went to university and majored in theater and then moved right to New York when which was easy for me to do because I had grown up outside New York. So it wasn't as big of a move as a lot of my friends who were moving from all over the country.
Was that always the plan? Like, were you like, one day, very soon, I'm moving into New York?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was, how shall I say, delusionally confident as a kid. Like, there was no question in my mind that I was going to be an incredibly famous actress.
And you?
Well, I mean, yeah. But it took a lot of my dreams getting shattered for many, many years to build to a place of actually working.
Yeah. That resilience.
But I needed that.
You
Yeah, yeah.
trained at some pretty like established prestigious institutions. Like you trained at the Stellar Adler Studio. You also did William Esper Studio. Can you tell us about some of those experiences? Like such amazing foundational places to train.
It's funny thinking now because I can't even remember how I ended up taking that program at Stella Adler. But I mean, I'm sure you're both familiar with, the different methods of acting that came down from Stanislavski and which teachers came to the States and started these vastly
Separated them
different
all.
schools. Yeah. So I was always much more drawn to the Stella Adler, which was more about imagination and creating backstory and being really specific with details and all that stuff, as opposed to, like bringing a lot of your real life into things. And so, God, and I think I was only in high school when I did the Stella Adler.
Wow.
I think it was like a summer program, and I did that, and it was wonderful. I mean, and it was, if I had to say that there was like a school of acting that is what I draw from, I would say it was probably that, just because it's so imagination based and all about little tiny details and being really clear with knowing what the character's life was before this moment, or if you're talking about something in a scene that happened, like imagining for yourself exactly the story that you're telling, that kind of thing. But yeah. And then I guess I went back. Oh, you know what it was? I went back in college to do a summer program at Stella Adler and I studied Chekhov, which I
Nice.
loved. That
Mhm.
I loved so deeply. And that was such a funny, funny program because there were all these students from all over the world. And there were these two women there who did a magical realism, like dance theater, which is like the opposite of Chekhov. And it was just very cool. It was just very cool to see all different kinds of artists from all over the place with these different backgrounds, doing Chekhov, which I've gone off on a tangent. Have I answered? What was the
No, but
question
I
you
love
actually asked
this
me?
because this is how we imagine this like iconic the New York moment, right? Like what it's like to train in New York. And like I've always, even as growing up when I was younger, I was like, oh, I would love to train in New York, even if I just got to go there for a
Mm.
summer and just go to some of these institutions. So I think it's great. And it sounds like you had a really strong foundation in theater. So can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about what it was like venturing out into the world? You completed your training programs and now you're out there auditioning for Broadway shows. How does
Yeah, you
sort of
have Broadway credit.
yes. So talk about your sort of your early credits in theater.
Okay, so when I first moved to New York City, we did a showcase. My theater school, we did this showcase. So we would do scenes or whatever for agents and casting directors. And I really arrived in New York sort of expecting doors to fly open, and they didn't. Yeah, when I first moved there, I mean, I moved with a couple girlfriends that I'd gone to university with. And my one friend who became my best friend is actually my sister-in-law now because we ended up marrying brothers, which is, I guess, history
Wow.
for maybe
That's
later.
like the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah, it was
That's
quite
some
funny the way it worked out.
dedication.
It is, yes, yes. But so we got like bartending jobs, because we knew we needed something that we could sort of work nights and weekends and be able to free ourselves up for all the auditions we were going to have. And like it was quite shocking that we didn't really have a lot of auditions at first. And so the first couple of years were just really I joke about it, but it really was like shattered dreams. Going to equity open calls, which I guess it's probably similar here, but like in New York at the time, it was I graduated in 2007. If you weren't a member of the union, you had to kind of show up at 5 in the morning, get in a line, wait in this line, and then wait all day long. And if they had an opening, they would see one of you. And a lot of times you would get to like 6:30 or whatever, and they'd say, sorry, goodbye. And so it was a lot of waking up at 5 in the morning to do my hair and then go sit with it was nice. I had good friends to sit with, but I'm trying to think of what actually ended up. I guess there was a program there that I think is still there called One on One, where you could pay to do monologues for casting directors. And someone had said to me, be strategic about it. And I had seen that Roundabout Theater Company, which is an off-Broadway theater company in New York City, one of their casting directors was having a class, and I knew they were casting understudies for production of The Seagull. And so I signed up for that. I picked a monologue that sort of was similar, whatever. And I walked into that room and I said, hi, Stephen Coble. I'm Meredith Forlenza. I know you're casting understudies for the production of The Seagull. This is my audition to audition. But that was what got me in the door at Roundabout. And so then they started seeing me for understudy roles and they started they started asking me to come in and be an audition reader.
Fantastic.
And that is the best training I think I ever got, was to just sit, because I would do it for plays, musicals, all kinds of things. And I sat and read for days and days and days over years. And it was great. They paid you, and it was just a phenomenal way to learn the business, to learn about auditioning, which is something like no matter what kind of schools you go to, right? Or what kind of training you have, you just have to learn on your feet about auditioning and about actually working, right? Like, so it was invaluable to have that experience. And I watched all different kinds of actors come in, like more established ones, brand new ones, kids, for all different kinds of projects. And that was the best. And I'm trying to think of what the first job I actually got. Oh, my very first job in New York was a non-equity ensemble member in a roundabout production of Pal Joey, which means I was not in the union. So I was basically an extra. I just appeared on stage and like sat in the like nightclub scene in the and I wasn't allowed to speak or move props or anything because I wasn't in the union. So that was a great education too. And then I guess I got my equity card because I booked a production of Steel Magnolias in North Carolina.
Wow.
So I went down and did that. Yeah. And then I think it's really crazy that I can't remember this, but I think maybe I understudied Zoe Kazan in a Martin McDonough play called A Behanding in Spokane. And it was the best. And that was my first real, I was Zoe's understudy, and I got to go on once, which was amazing. And Zoe was so great. And that cast was Chris Walken, Sam Rockwell, Anthony Mackie, and Zoe Kazan.
Oh my God. Wow.
So that was very cool.
Goodness. Yes.
Yeah, that was really
crazy. And that's how you got your card. That's how you got it.
I got my card doing this. Yeah. I got my card doing the Steel Magnolias in North Carolina. And then that understudy job was my first big New York job. Yeah.
Your big New York job.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear about your transitions from theater into on-screen work and what that process was like for you, and how the two mediums, like the experience of navigating transitioning to on-screen work versus stage work.
That's a great question. While I was living in New York, I basically, I did a little film and TV here and there, but I really basically just did theater. And it wasn't until I moved here that I started doing a lot more TV, film. I'm trying to think, when I was in New York, I did a couple things. I had little, we would call them co-star roles, but I guess here you would call them actor. Or no, I still get confused about this. But, one scene roles, whatever.
One scene roles, or like 5 lines and under kind of.
Yeah, those kinds of things. Yeah. So I did a couple things like that, but and I did too in New York. I had a great role in a David Chase movie, but my scenes all got cut. They cut that storyline. And so that was a big bummer. That was really fun. That was like I was in scenes with James Gandolfini, and it was really cool. And I was so sad. It was a movie called Not Fade Away. That's really beautiful. But anyway, so I had a little bit of experience, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And it wasn't until, so I moved to Toronto in 2019 and just started kind of auditioning and got an agent and whatever. And then I got pregnant, and then the pandemic hit. And so then I just basically did not work for, I want to say, pretty much 3 or 4 years. And I sort of thought, well, I guess this is it for me. I guess I'm done. I started like panicking and taking therapy classes through the University of Guelph to be like maybe I could do this. And what ended up happening, I think I booked, and I was auditioning throughout. I mean, it just felt like throwing tapes into an abyss, but I was making tapes a lot, but like hearing nothing back, and just sort of really, and my babies were tiny, and I really, every time I would get an audition, I would think, oh, I don't think I could do this. And I kept thinking like, I should quit, right? This is where I should quit. But I had this little thing in my head saying like, don't make this life decision now when you're this exhausted. Like, you're so tired. You have 2 tiny little kids. Just like hang in there. And if you feel better about yourself and you book a job and then you're like, you know what, I'm done with this, fine. Then you can quit. So I hung in there. I got, I think, a couple lines on Law and Order Toronto. And I remember, and I was 4 months postpartum. Like, I was in so much pain still. But anyway, I did that and I loved it. And I thought, okay. And I just kept sort of plugging away. I was like working out, getting back into shape. working on stuff. And then I booked a role in a Hallmark movie. And it was sort of a luck because the lead actress is Italia Ricci and they were looking for someone who could play her sister. And we look alike.
Yeah.
And so that's the only reason I got that role. And so I showed up on set and I hadn't been on a set in 100 years. And, those things move really, really fast, as you both know. Like you shoot them in 15 days, an entire film.
Yeah.
And so I showed up on set and my first scene, I had to like enter, hit a mark and say my line. And so, everything's set up. We're going. I'm doing the scene with the lead actress and I walk in and hit my mark and I was really proud of myself. And then everyone was just looking at me and she was like, you have to say your line. And I thought, oh God, I am school. I don't remember how to do this. And so I had a real moment of panic, but Italia, she basically just started telling me, she was like, stand here, do this, look there, say that. And I was like, thank God. And she told me exactly what to do. And about an hour into the day, she was like, are you okay with me doing this? Like, are you okay with me just telling you what to do? And I was like, please tell me what to do. And so Italia Ricci basically gave me like a crash course in being on set. And I feel like I owe her everything because by that was Monday. And by Wednesday, I was like, okay, I remember how to do this. Okay. And I just watched her. I watched how she was doing things because she is such a pro. And anyway, so then from then I started kind of booking more stuff. And the transition is very strange because film and TV is completely different than theater. And I mean, like when we were in acting school, they always said to us, oh, they're not different. They're the same, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not true. I mean, like,
Did you did you ever do in-person auditions in Toronto? Or was it?
I did before the pandemic for some theater stuff. Actually, and I did a couple in-person on-camera things. But yeah, since the pandemic, it was like nothing. I mean, I don't think I've gone to an in-person audition in years, which is so wild. But yeah, anyway, the main thing I realized is just your energy, like when you're doing a play, you kind of warm up, you get ready, you hit the energy you need to hit, you sustain it for the play, and then you come down. Whereas like on set, you need to not be hype when you get to set because then you're hooked, right? So well, that was a really interesting thing to learn about myself, especially because I'm pretty like hyper and neurotic and whatever. And so I had to really, really learn how to keep my energy at a simmer.
Yeah.
And also, depending on the job, depending on the scene, depending on how you feel that day, it's different every time you get to set, right? And so that I had to learn too. Like, all right, I'm here today. I'm really tired, but I have to do a really emotional scene. So I'm not going to drink a ton of coffee because that's going to make me crazy. You know what I mean? Sort of learning to calibrate everything to the specific moment.
Yeah. And also
that was like the most valuable thing.
Theater is very much so you're filling a room, right? Like there's an audience, your energy has to reach the back of the room. Whereas on film, it's like the camera picks up even the slightest thing, right? So the camera is picking up your thought. And so that I feel like that is often when I think of like theater and film, I feel like that's to me the biggest difference is the technical component of like, okay, I don't need to like the camera's right here with me. I don't need to raise my voice. I don't need to do anything. Just think the thought.
Over enunciate.
Yes.
So yeah, that's really interesting.
Oh, and with theater, I feel like you're also getting energy back. That you don't get with a camera and a camera crew that's sitting there like on their walkies, on their phone. And not to say, of course they're doing their job, but it's like you've got to go in there. There's no warm up. There's no like I walk in and then, you don't get to feel that you don't get a rehearsal. Right? You just go in and you gotta be.
Yeah, like when I showed up on set of that Hallmark movie, I thought like I've never met this actress before who's supposed to be my sister. We haven't read this. That part was crazy too. Now I feel like I'm so used to it, but now that I just couldn't believe that there were no rehearsals. It just seemed so crazy.
Right, the chemistry
there's no rehearsals, and then they and then they shoot it, and then it's on camera forever. Like it just seemed so insane. And also, being from the part of the world I'm from, I'm loud, and I'm very expressive, and I move a lot. And so that was another thing that I had to sort of learn. And I'm still, I still consider myself like pretty new to. I am pretty new to this, to doing all this camera work. But yeah, just knowing that if you are going to make big physical movements, they have to be thoughtful, right? It has to be, just calibrating, constant calibration.
Yes. And the camera picks up
Yeah.
anything false. So it's like if
Yes.
you're not being truthful in the moment, like the camera knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to also like one thing. So, as you both know, there are pros and cons of this new world where everything's on tape. But one of the pros is I used to constantly in New York, it was mostly auditioning for plays, but they would send you tons of material and I would bust my ass learning like a 2-page monologue or something. And then you walk in and they're like, oh, we're only doing the first scene. We're not going to do that monologue. I had several auditions, like I can still think of them now, exactly what they were and what room I was in, where I was so filled with rage that I may as well have left. You know what I mean? I may as well have been like, okay, that's great. Bye. Because I
It's your
feel rage now
time.
thinking about
It's
it.
your time, right? And it's like, there's so many.
We give up a lot
Yeah.
for prep sometimes. I
Yeah.
think we've learned over the years. I've definitely learned over the years to just, do
Yeah.
it differently.
Yeah. Work smarter,
Yeah.
not harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The first
yes,
few
yes.
years for sure was like, I can't do anything. I need to sit here. I need to listen to it. I need to walk around with it. I need to.
Yeah. Don't talk to me. I'm going to be in this room upstairs. My kids need me. No, I got to learn these lines. Now it's like, and it's impossible when you have kids. Like it really,
Yeah.
like, how are you supposed to just lock yourself away so you can, like, you have to find other ways to work to make it work, in my opinion.
Yeah, having kids, it's almost that pressure can be really helpful, right? Because it's like if you have half an hour, you have half an hour, and you just have to do what you
Bang
can
it
in
out.
that half hour, and that's it. And that's a skill too, right? And about those auditions where I like prepped and then never got to show them my brilliant work, I do try to say to myself, like, that was time that you spent that will pay off later, right? Like you worked on this character, you worked on beats, whatever. This is what I tell myself. The rage in the moment is still there, but
Yeah, you were working.
practicing is good. Yeah, and do you know the book? What is it called? I think it's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, the woman who did Eat, Pray, Love. Have you read it?
Yeah.
I
have years ago, but I remember.
Yeah, so I'm one of those annoying like 90s kids who whenever anything's like that popular, I'm like, I'm not gonna, like I didn't read Eat, Pray, Love when it came out because I was like, everybody's reading it. I'm not gonna read it. And then of course last summer I read it and I was like, this is gorgeous. And so then I started sort of reading everything she'd ever written. And I that book, Big Magic, something she said in it really, really, really resonated with me and has helped me so much as a parent trying to do this, which is if you were having an affair, it wouldn't matter how tired you were or how inconvenient it was. If you had 15 minutes to meet that person in a stairwell, you would. And that's how you should feel about your art. And I remember being like, whoa, what a great way to think about it, And so I have to really remind myself of it. But, it's like you get one night I was in my son's room waiting for him to fall asleep. He wouldn't fall asleep. It had been such an exhausting day. I was so looking forward to just getting into bed. And an audition came through, tons of material. It was due in 2 days or something, but I had to do it the next day. And I had that moment of like anger about like, why don't I have enough time to do this? And then I thought, no, if you were having an affair, you would be thrilled to get this email and you would be thrilled to stay up tonight talking on the phone or whatever, whatever thing.
Yeah.
But that has been really helpful thinking about it that way. That like, oh my God, I get to do this. Even if it doesn't result in what, it's hard. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. But like, I do love doing this and it is really fun. And so.
Yeah. And so I remember that book. And so I don't remember that part. My big takeaway from that book was if you have an idea and you aren't going to do something about it, it's only going to stay with you for so long before someone else is going to take that idea and make something. And all you can do is stand in the background being like, I thought of that, but you didn't do anything with it. So the universe said, this has to happen one way or another. We're giving it away to someone who is going to do something with it. And that's what I always think about when I'm like, yeah, well, it would be nice. Yeah, I've got this great idea. Like, do something about it. Put it into the world, because otherwise someone else is going to come along and do it possibly better.
Okay, so let's dive into finding her edge. This is so exciting. Ginny and I both want to hear about the audition process, everything that led up to this moment, and you're experiencing your experience working on this amazing show.
Yes. So the audition is so funny to talk about because when I first got the audition, it was for sort of, an unnamed project, and it said possible recurring. And so all I knew that it was some TV show that was going to be about figure skating. And I think all they said to me in the character breakdown or whatever, there was no script, there was nothing, but it was like an old family friend. That was pretty much it. And it was the one scene where I, in the pilot, I sort of tell Will Russo, the dad, you're different these days. I don't know if you're the same guy my best friend married. And in the original audition, it was even more sort of like a fight. And so, it was one of those, like, I had half an hour to shoot it. My sweet husband read with me, like, right before. We had the kids downstairs watching something so they would be quiet. We shot it in like 20 minutes up in my room and then left and went to lunch at his parents'. And so, I remember I liked the scene. I liked the character. I played it very much like myself, but I didn't think much of it because you know how it is. You shoot off these tapes into an abyss and you never hear anything. And I didn't hear anything for weeks. Oh, but they did say in the slate, they wanted to know if we had skating experience, if we were comfortable on skates, and if we had dance experience. And as an actor, you're always taught to just say you can do things.
Yes.
Figure it out later.
What positive people.
Yes, and I didn't lie, ? Because I said I'm, at the time, I really thought maybe I would be better on skates than I am. But I said, I'm generally comfortable on skates. I'm pretty athletic generally, which is also like kind of a lie. And I said, and as for dancing, I would say I'm an actor who can move, which, means nothing. But anyway, so yeah, shot that off. And then weeks and weeks later, and Chris said to me, my husband said, you shouldn't lie about your skating ability because like that skating's really hard. And I was like, how dare you? I can figure out how to ice skate.
Well, had you not skated before at all? Or
no, I had been on ice skates probably like 3 times in my entire life. But I did genuinely believe, because it did say in the breakdown, for any real ice skating, there will be doubles. Like, don't worry too much about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I did genuinely believe that it would not be hard to fake ease.
Right.
yes.
Ha ha ha.
Belief is just as important as a fact,
Yeah, exactly. So later, I got an email saying, do you have skating footage? And I was like, oh, well, the jig is up. And so I said, oh, I don't, but I could get you some if you want. And they said, oh no, don't bother. And so I thought, okay. And so then it was right before Christmas, on like Friday night at 9:30, I got an email saying they need footage by Monday. And of course I was so sick. We were leaving. We were trying to pack up to leave. And so thank God the next morning, we got a babysitter. I took a bunch of cold medication and I came it was freezing also. And I came trundling down the stairs in like a gigantic coat that like went down to my ankles. And my husband was like, go back upstairs and put on yoga pants, put on a cute sweater and put on a cute hat. My sweet husband who knows nothing about the business or anything. So I changed, and he, who's an excellent skater, skated backwards and like filmed me
Because he's Canadian.
Bambying around. Oh yeah, he like grew up on skates. He like came out the womb on skates. But anyway, so I sent it in and I was sort of like, well, listen, if they want someone who can really skate, this isn't my role, and that's just gonna have to be fine. And that was it. And then I just didn't hear anything. For all I knew, it was for this like one scene character, possibly who might show up in another episode. And so I kept over the next couple weeks getting little emails being like, you're on a list, you're on a short list, you're on a very short list. And then I guess after the holidays in January, I got a phone call on a Friday night, and my agent never calls me, right? He emails me about everything. And so when I saw that he was calling, I thought, and I picked up the phone and he said, you booked the skating role and they rewritten it, and it's a series regular, and it's going to be on global Netflix.
Wow.
And I burst into tears. I scared the hell out of my kids because they were both like, Mom? And
Are you okay?
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to throw up. And it was just so, you go your whole career wanting a job like that. And also, I thought that if I had no idea I was up for that kind of job, thank God. Like, I'm just so grateful that I didn't know what I was up for, because Christmas would have been ruined. I would have been a basket case the entire time. And it was just such a like incredible, lovely, also like I didn't have a chemistry read. I didn't have to make another tape. Like, it was so weird.
Yeah.
but wonderful. It was like the thing you daydream about happening. And so I still sort of can't believe it, but I'm so grateful for the way it happened because I was so relaxed about it all because I didn't understand what it was. And I fully know that if they had said, hey, this is for a Netflix thing that's going to be all over the world and it's a series regular, I would have not gotten it.
Possibly, right? I mean, you would have put so much more pressure on yourself. You wouldn't have read with your husband. You know, and yeah, it all worked out.
I would have I would have just worked too hard in the audition because this, the way I did it, I was like, I just did it and I'm grateful. So yeah, so that's how I found out I got it. Yeah. And then I just kept waiting to get fired.
And they liked it so much that you were coming back for a second season.
I'm so glad we get to come back and do it again.
How was that like when you found out? How did they tell you? What was that like?
Well, they emailed our entire cast and said, we have a mandatory Zoom meeting on Monday night. This was back, I think, like a week after the show premiered. So, I mean, it was like the end of January, I guess. And they said full cast Zoom about PR to teach us how to do PR. And, I kind of felt like, oh, good. I don't have it. Like, I'm terrible at social media, whatever. Great. I could use some tips. And then, but I did think it was odd that it just seemed there was something weird about it. Mm-hmm. Like the whole cast. I don't know. But anyway, so we had this meeting and I had plans actually anyway with a couple of the cast members to have dinner. And so they were all at my house, like Yona, Millie, and Alice, who play JJ, Riley, and Maria. So we were all together on this Zoom. And they just said, oh, I'm really sorry to tell you guys. And, had a moment of being like, oh, God, what? And though you're going to have to get your coats back out because we're doing season 2. And so we were thrilled.
Amazing. Amazing. And I had the opportunity. I was on a couple of episodes. I had a little part, possibly recurring.
A great part.
And I got to spend time on the set with everyone. And what a lovely set. And, it was really great having you there because you were really like, Meredith was so great on set. She was like showing me, she's like, oh, you go here. Don't worry. That's, this is where you're going to go. Oh, do you need something else? I think you need something. Don't worry. I'll get it. And, I felt so, because it is when you were a day player role, and we kind of talked about this in our other interviews, when you're a day player role, when you're just showing up on set and everybody else is an ensemble and they've spent weeks and months with each other, it's just a different dynamic and you always kind of feel like a fish out of water. And to have you there, like to have a good friend there. And I did know Harmon, but we had worked together a couple years ago. So I knew him. I knew he was a great guy, but it'd been a while, but just to have you there, it just made everything so lovely. And of course, the entire cast was great to work with. And they were like doing pranks and stuff. Not on me. I just got to like watch and laugh, which was great.
It was great for me too, because let me tell you, nothing makes you realize you're not in your 20s anymore than spending a lot of time with people who are in their 20s. I will love them all so, so much and really loved having other people my age on set. Yeah. But yeah, Ginny, you were so great. When Ginny booked that role, I was like, and told me, I was so thrilled. And she did such a great, great job. And it was so fun to have you on set. You were on set for good days because you were there for the gala. So it was like, massive tons of
I love those days
the whole
where, I'm basically just glorified background, but I get to be there the whole time. I get to dress up. I get to see what's up and get paid overtime because they're like, we'll just leave her waiting. It's fine. And it's great. Great. No problem. I know. No problem. I'll take a nap. But
I feel like you got a nice taste of that because you were in one of those gigantic, crazy town. It took us the whole week. There were 1 million people. Everybody in the cast was there. And you got to do this like lovely intimate scene with just the 3 of us in the office. So yeah, I feel like you got a nice taste of the best.
Yeah, I got a nice mix. Yeah. I really enjoyed that set.
Amazing.
Yeah, Ginny's so good on the show.
Love it. You guys are both amazing. Okay, Meredith, so let's talk a little bit about that responsibility of being a series regular, like you having gone from these like maybe smaller roles where you show up on set, do a day or two, having this responsibility of being a leader on set. What did you learn from that?
Well, I mean, it was a kind of great position because yes, I was a series regular or leader on set, but it's a big cast, you know, and I was like number, I think 6 on the call sheet or something. So I wasn't number 1, you know, I wasn't even number 2 or 3 or 4. And so, and our number 1, Maddie Keys, is just
Such a pro.
I don't even,
Yeah.
such a pro, even though like also pretty new to all of this, but like she was just such a considerate, incredible, like she took care of all of us, even though she literally was on set, I think, every single day and worked. I don't know when she slept or did anything, but anyway, yes, there's responsibility, but honestly, it's like everything we've just been talking about, it's almost easier to be a series regular and be in this environment where like I knew the directors, I knew the whole crew, I knew, you know, I was friends with the cast. We spent so many hours hanging out. And so in a lot of ways it's easier because there's so much support there. You're showing up and you know, we were lucky, like everybody got along. There was no drama. I mean, there was drama like from the elements because there were like ice storms and things like that happening. But as far as like the cast was concerned, like no one was fighting. No one was a diva. No one was, it was all very nice being on set. So honestly, like, you know, I tried to always introduce myself to everybody and just sort of like, you know, be the way I would have appreciated people being to me if I was showing up for one day. But, you know, I did screw myself one day because beautiful Elvis Stoico, Canadian treasure, is on the show. And Jenny, I don't know if you know this story, but I made a real, well, I'll just tell you what happened. In my feeling that I needed to welcome everyone, you know, I knew of Elvis, obviously, and I knew he was coming on set and we were shooting a scene together on his first day. And so, you know, I hadn't slept for whatever reason. We were on set really late. Then I had a hard time falling asleep. So I was on like 3 hours of sleep. It was bad. But I had spent the morning like watching videos of his work and like, you know, whatever. And so I get to set and there's him and another guest star that are there that day. And the other guest star his name is Lindsay. And he plays an agent on the show. And he's a Black character. And I show up and I see this man sitting in one of the makeup chairs and I'm so sleep deprived and I look at him and I think, that's so weird. I recognize him. He must be playing Charles. God, it's weird that they picked a white guy to play this Black character. Oh, well. And I walked up to Elvis Stoico and I said, hello, you must be Lindsay playing Charles. I'm Meredith. I play Camille on the show. And sweet angel Elvis Stoico so kindly looked up at me and said, actually, my name's Elvis and I'm playing Kevin. And I wanted to die. I wanted to fall through. I spent the morning watching videos of him. I knew it. Like my brain, as I walked up to him, said, "This character shouldn't be a white man." Harvard. Anyway,
Whatever.
It's great.
oh my God, I wanted to die. And also, like, you know, I didn't know him. Like at the time, he couldn't be lovelier. He's so generous and wonderful and has no ego. And like, thank God, he's the loveliest man. But I was also like, I just insulted, like kind of inadvertently like I just walked up to this legend and was like, I don't know who you are. Here's an ad.
You could be a Black man for all I know.
All I can do is blame the fact that I hadn't slept in so long. But like, it was so mortifying. And on the way there, you know, like in the car on the way there, I was like, oh, he's an athlete. Like I might have to, you know, like make him feel comfortable being on set, like blah, 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 blah. No, he was incredible. He knew all of his lines. I mean, like that was he was so good that I found myself being like, what are my lines? So it was just a real humbling moment where I was like, right, shut up, Meredith. So,
Oh, Mr. Stoico.
And thank God we've become friends.
It all came in an effort to welcome someone. And it was maybe.
What an ass, though. That was the universe slapping me in the face and being like, calm down.
Oh my God.
Anyway, yeah. So I don't know how well I handle the responsibility of being a series regular, but it is really fun. And I'm really like, that's the part I'm looking forward to the most is like just going back to this, you know, place that feels like home and that you get, you know, how lucky to be able to have a 4-month stretch of work. Like, my God, you know, and really trying to soak it in because like nobody living in the world knows.
Right. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So like, what has changed? Like we always think like, oh my God, we get the series regular role and then like our life is going to change. Tell me about.
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, I'll tell you, I was talking to Jenny about this earlier because, I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I had a moment before the show aired where I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to go to restaurants? And the answer is yes. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares. I've been recognized.
That was the thing you thought
One
of.
time, and it was at a skating class, and I was wearing part of my costume accidentally. Like, nothing has changed.
Will I be able to just go to the grocery store and get my groceries without someone stopping me?
I was like, oh my God, like, am I going to have to get security? I didn't, no. But literally,
I'm going to need a new
Nothing
hat.
has changed.
I'm going to need a disguise.
Seriously. And like when I have been in situations over the last few months where someone will bring up the show and say, oh, I just binge watched blah, blah, blah. I was with my other sister-in-law once and she said, Meredith is on that show. And the woman looked at me and she was like, what? Who do you play on the show? And I was like, I'm the only adult woman with
other adult
that's in every episode. And she was like, who? What do you mean? And I was like, the coach, Camille, she's the one that does this. And I was like, oh my God. And she didn't believe me. So I don't know. I don't know if I just have like a face that, I mean, I do look really, really different with no makeup and with my hair up and whatever, but like I was done up when this woman saw me. So I guess nobody cares.
There was no. You were wonderful in the show. You were wonderful in the show and very recognizable. Like, this is how you look.
I don't know.
In the show. This lady she was just like all about the teens, I guess. She was very...
Listen, my neighbor who lives across the street from me, his wife was saying, that's Meredith. And he was like, no, it isn't. There's something about my face. People don't recognize me. I don't know. But also,
well,
again,
you know what? When the
happy to have
second,
been
I mean, it's a
humbled by
good
the
thing.
universe.
It's a good thing. You don't need security. You can
Yeah.
still go to the restaurants.
Exactly. Perfect. And I feel like I don't know what's happening in season 2, but that storyline, I feel like it's gonna get fleshed out a little bit, and I'm looking forward
I don't know
to it.
anything that's happening in season 2. I mean, I wouldn't be allowed to say anything. I don't think that, but I truly know.
Of course.
nothing. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to find out.
And so are we. Okay, we are
Yes.
reaching our hour. So
Mhm.
there's maybe a couple more questions and then we'll let you go. I'm curious, Meredith, in your career so far, like, if you have any advice for young artists out there who are, forging the path, this crazy path that we've chosen for ourselves of acting or just trying to be an artist, any advice that you or anything you've learned from a mentor along the way that might be helpful on how to keep going or...
I listened to your podcast and I know you asked this at the end of it and I should have prepared a more thoughtful answer. I mean, advice for people coming up, I would say it sort of changes depending on my mood, but at the moment, my advice would be to work hard. And what I mean by that is read scripts, watch shows that you think you could be on. It can be really frustrating and still, I don't want it to seem like I'm speaking from this place of having like reached some desired thing. Like this is currently, I am frustrated because I am, haven't booked anything in a bit and it can feel really frustrating and out of your control. And I think like the things you can control are how hard you work and how you're showing up. And so, watch a TV show that films here that you feel like you could fit into the world of. Let yourself be inspired by some other incredible TV show that, is already over and you couldn't be on. But just find things every day to do that excite you about this, because most of it is a big, difficult, unglamorous slog. And I think that working hard and finding those little things that remind you why you're doing it is key.
Yeah.
And that there's always something you can be doing, right? You can be going out to drinks with other actors and talking to them. You could be reading a play that you've never read that you love. I mean, I know that it can really feel futile because I've been there at various parts of my life, like including very recently, but you've just got to hang in there. And I mean, and I'll also like hang in there until you don't want to anymore, right? Like that was in those couple years where I was really like, I guess I'm done. There was just something that I just couldn't quit, even though I really thought I should. So if you have that and your body isn't letting you quit to do something that makes more sense, read a book, go see a play, just keep being an artist. I don't know. I feel like that sounds so cliche, but it's really hard to get sucked up into all the like everyday life stuff, especially if you're a parent or whatever, you're doing laundry and packing lunches and whatever, listen to a podcast, watch a show, read a book that makes you cry, feel things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Keep a foot in there if you can.
Yeah.
Your fingertips hanging on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, and last question. When you hear the phrase hitting her mark, what does that mean for you? How do you define success in your life? It could be personally, professionally, however you see that phrase.
So this is, I guess, probably tied a little bit to what I just said, but to me, this is something I thought about because I know you guys asked this question, but the phrase hitting her mark to me means doing what you need to do in your career and in your outside life. So like, for me, it's like doing the freaking laundry, doing the meal planning, doing the cleaning, like all the stuff I hate that I feel terrible at, doing the stuff I need to do. And then as an artist, doing the work I need to do to, hit your mark, to do the stuff you need to do so that you create space for the magic that can happen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do the work, do the slog and keep the faith. And then maybe someone will call you out of nowhere and say, guess what? You're on a Netflix show about ice skating.
Right. But it's not out of nowhere because all those little steps you took
yes.
absolutely add up. But sometimes it's hard to see that, right? It's hard to see the end.
We see, especially now, like with all of the self-tapes and, we see nothing unless our agents know somebody and can tell us, oh, you were up for this, whatever. Like we really don't see it. You don't see
And even
always
then,
your work paying off.
Yes, sometimes you'll have a great audition and you get good feedback and you're like, I feel really good about that. Nothing.
Yeah.
You're just
Brutal.
fucking with me now.
Yeah, totally.
And on that note, thank you so much, Meredith, for being a guest on the show. Beautiful
Thank you for having me. I hope I didn't ramble. I have a tendency to do that.
No,
You did great.
So cool to see your journey. Thank you for being a guest.
Oh my God.
Thank you for
having
joining
me. You're
us.
both incredible.
And everybody watch Finding Her Edge.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Hitting Her Mark. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. For more content and updates, follow us on Instagram at Hitting Her Mark.